what is the operational blind spot that you're always making sure you point out to these folks that could eat into their returns as they start to get more exposure to this market?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're not gonna like the answer because I'm gonna go back to interconnection realism as a part of uh, but I think, there is always a question of, like, when you're scaling megawatts faster than what you can actually get done. This again goes back to a little bit of what we were just talking about regarding operational feasibility of getting these
Mhm.
projects going. And at gigawatt scale, I think if you think about what can eat returns, like, clearly one of them is, if you're assuming best case Q outcomes for the interconnection, you're probably underwriting a portfolio of projects that is not realistically gonna all materialize
Yep.
given what's going on. And so if you're if you're not accounting for that effectively or not probability weighting those programs, I mean, that's where you get into some real challenges where the promise of what you're underwriting is not what will ultimately come out in the end as part of the portfolio. The second, I think, a little bit touches on what we talked about, but it comes around, like, standardizing performance and operations of the business once you have it. And so what do I mean by that? It's like that if you have a lot of assets in your portfolio at that type of scale, the question will come down to, who has bought the best panels for putting those solar programs in the ground? Who has thought about detecting issues faster? Who has thought about being able to manage, like, insurance or warranty claims? Like,
Mhm.
who's thought about managing your curtailment risk, and who's thought about, dispatch across your suite of assets in the right way, and getting the operational side down is what tends to then drive some of that spread. There's a study that folks in our firm had done around what is the spread on, like, top quartile developers versus the rest. And what you kind of find is, like, if you're a top quartile developer, you ultimately can spend something like 16 to 30% less per megawatt on renewables from managing the asset better. And that is I think, direct attribute, like, directly hits your return profile as an investor, directly hits your ability to scale these assets in a way manageable. And so I think if you put those two things together, if you can manage the interconnection side well and think about that well, but also deal with the operations and costs and manage that, I think, you can be set up for success, barring everything else also.